In a quiet village called Umuoba, there was a church known as the House of Faith. It was a grand building with tall pillars and beautiful stained glass windows that glowed under the moonlight. But this church was different. It only opened its doors at night and never during the day. The villagers found this strange, but they still came for the services because they had heard incredible stories of miracles happening there. The priest of the House of Faith was a man named Pastor Obinna. He was tall, dressed in flowing robes, and had a voice that was both calm and commanding. People whispered that Reverend Obinna had special powers. Some claimed they saw him heal the sick with just a touch, while others said he could make the blind see again. It was said that those who attended his midnight services often left feeling like a great burden had been lifted from their shoulders. The villagers believed Reverend Obinna's powers came from his deep connection with the sacred mysteries of the church. However, Pastor Obinna had one strict rule. No one was allowed to bring a Bible or any religious object into the church. He said only he held the true knowledge and that other scriptures would interfere with the church's sacred energy. Most villagers obeyed this rule, but some were curious. Why would a pastor forbid Bibles in his own church? One young woman named Stella couldn't shake her curiosity. She had heard the stories of miracles, but something about the church didn't seem right to her. Stella was a woman of strong faith and always carried a small Bible with her wherever she went. One night, she decided to attend a service at the House of Faith, hiding her Bible under her shawl. She wanted to see for herself what truly happened in that church. When Stella arrived, the doors of the church opened slowly, revealing the dimly lit interior. The congregation was already seated, their faces blank as they waited for Pastor Obinna to speak. The air felt heavy, almost thick, as if something unseen was filling the room. Stella found a seat near the back, clutching her Bible tightly, feeling both nervous and determined. Pastor Obinna stood at the front, his robes flowing as he raised his hands to start the service. His deep voice filled the room. "Tonight, we gather to experience wonders beyond our understanding," he said. "Only those who trust completely in the mysteries of this place will receive its blessings." As he spoke, Stella noticed strange shadows moving along the walls. At first, she thought it was just her imagination, but the shapes seemed to have faces, twisted and watching her from the darkness. She held onto her Bible, trying to stay calm. Suddenly, Pastor Obinna's sharp eyes settled on her, and he seemed to sense something unusual. "Child," he called out, his voice ringing through the hall. "Is there something you wish to share with us?" Stella's heart raced, but she kept her composure. "No, Pastor," she replied, trying to sound innocent. But as she spoke, her hidden Bible slipped from her shawl and fell to the floor with a soft thud. The entire congregation turned to stare at her, and Pastor Obinna's face twisted with anger. The shadows in the room began to shift, growing larger and darker, taking on strange, frightening forms. Creatures with horns and glowing eyes emerged from the corners, their gaze fixed on Stella. "You have brought something forbidden into this sacred place." Pastor Obinna shouted, his voice filled with rage. "Do you realize what you have done?" Stella felt a wave of fear, but her faith was stronger. She picked up her Bible, held it close, and began to read aloud. Her voice started softly but grew louder and more confident with each word. The light from her words seemed to push back the darkness, and the creatures recoiled, hissing and retreating from her. Pastor Obinna stumbled back, shielding his eyes as if the light from Stella's words was too bright for him. "Stop!" he cried, his voice full of panic. "You're destroying everything." But Stella didn't stop. She kept reading, her voice steady and unwavering. One by one, the dark creatures vanished, dissolving into smoke as her words filled the room. The church itself began to shake, and cracks appeared along the walls, as if it could no longer contain the darkness within. When dawn arrived, the House of Faith had vanished. All that remained was an empty field. The villagers gathered around, amazed at the sight. They realized that Stella had broken the strange spell that had held them captive. From that day on, the village of Umuoba found peace. The stories of Pastor Obinna's miracles faded, and the villagers remembered Stella's courage. They understood that true faith doesn't need secrets or strange rules. It shines brightly and openly for everyone to see.